They don't invite you. They don't understand you. They vanish when you need them most. But what if I told you, this painful isolation isn't punishment, it's preparation. Because chosen ones aren't meant to fit in. They're meant to stand out. And that journey always begins in solitude. If you've been feeling alone lately, you're not broken. You're being positioned. There comes a moment in the life of every chosen one where silence becomes louder than any room full of people. The noise fades. The conversations disappear. You look around, and suddenly the very people who once claimed to support you are nowhere to be found. You question yourself. You replay every moment in your head, wondering where things went wrong. But the truth is, things didn't go wrong. They went divine. You were set apart, pulled away, not because of punishment, but because you were being refined. When you're chosen, your path is different by design. You were never meant to blend in. Your soul was never wired for the crowd. While others are distracted by trends and validation, you've been called to depth, purpose, and power. And that calling demands solitude. God removes distractions not to harm you, but to help you hear more clearly. You don't need more opinions. You need more alignment. And that alignment often starts with being alone. It hurts, doesn't it? Watching people walk away without explanation. Feeling the sting of being the outsider, even among those you once called family. The nights feel heavier. The silence, unbearable. But hidden inside that pain is transformation. Because it's in your isolation that God does His deepest work. You begin to awaken to your own power. Your spiritual eyes open. You notice things others don't. You sense danger before it arrives. You feel the shift in energy when someone walks in the room. That sensitivity isn't a burden. It's a divine upgrade. But it doesn't come cheap. It's birthed in silence, in tears, in nights where you wonder if anyone sees you at all. They don't see you because they're not meant to. Not yet. The chosen ones are hidden before they are revealed. God hides you to protect what He's building in you. If He revealed you too early, the world would misunderstand you. They would try to label what they can't define. So He keeps you tucked away while He sharpens your gifts, strengthens your spirit, and prepares your influence. Isolation isn't absence, it's incubation. It's in that season that your discernment heightens. You begin to see through facades. The conversations you once tolerated now feel empty. The places you once found comfort now feel uncomfortable. That's not you being bitter. That's you outgrowing the level you were once on. Chosen ones are constantly evolving, and that evolution demands solitude. You start to learn who you are without applause. You find strength not from being surrounded, but from standing alone. You develop discipline. You become your own encourager, your own accountability. You stop begging for attention and start becoming intentional. The world begins to feel different, not because the world changed, but because you did. And that change costs you. It costs you comfort. It costs you connection. But what you gain is clarity. Suddenly, you don't want to be around everyone anymore. You want to protect your peace. You guard your time. You stop over-explaining yourself. Not out of arrogance, but because your energy is sacred. And not everyone deserves access to it. People start to misunderstand your silence. They say you've changed, that you've become distant. But what they don't realize is you're no longer trying to be seen. You're becoming who you were born to be. You're not chasing approval. You're chasing alignment with your calling. And not everyone can walk with you on that path. The weight of your calling demands that you travel light. So yes, isolation hurts, but it heals too. It detoxes you from codependency. It teaches you how to sit with yourself, how to pray with depth, how to hear divine instruction. It reintroduces you to your own voice, not the one shaped by expectation, but the one rooted in purpose. You begin to realize that you were never lonely. You were just surrounded by the wrong people. People who couldn't see your worth. People who were intimidated by your light. People who preferred the old version of you because it didn't challenge them to grow. But now you see clearly. And in that clarity, you find power. You're not meant to be understood by everyone. Some people will never get you, and that's okay. Your spirit speaks a language only those with ears to hear can recognize. Your presence alone shakes atmospheres. You don't need a crowd to validate you. You were anointed in private. You were marked in silence. And that mark cannot be erased by rejection. Rejection is redirection. Those who walked away made space for what's coming. The silence cleared the stage for divine appointments. The tears watered seeds of greatness. And now you're being strengthened not to fit in, but to rise. There's a reason you feel the way you do, a reason you feel deeply, a reason you think differently. You were chosen to see beyond the surface, to carry a message, to live with meaning, to break the chains that others are still bound by. And to do that, you had to be separated. The isolation was never punishment. It was prophecy. It was spoken over you before you were born, that you would walk a different path, that your life wouldn't look like others, that your battles would be unique because your calling is uncommon. And now, everything you're feeling, the loneliness, the silence, the inner struggle, it's all part of the preparation. You're being molded in private for a mission that will one day be public. So hold on, keep going, keep healing, keep praying. The silence won't last forever. The isolation will pass. But when it does, you'll emerge with power, with clarity, with purpose, because the pain had a purpose, and the purpose is about to be revealed. You didn't go through all of this pain for nothing. The sleepless nights, the prayers that felt unanswered, the constant questioning of your worth. Every piece of your isolation was intentional. You weren't forgotten. You were being set apart. You weren't rejected. You were being redirected. What felt like abandonment was actually alignment. What looked like loss was divine positioning. Because the chosen ones walk through fire not to burn, but to be refined. And when you finally realize that, everything changes. You stop asking, "Why me?" And you start saying, "Thank you. Thank you for removing the wrong people. Thank you for the pain that pushed me deeper into purpose. Thank you for the silence that taught me how to listen to something greater than noise. Thank you for the isolation that became the birthing room of my power." There's a reason God doesn't let everyone walk with you. You've been entrusted with something holy, and holiness requires separation. What you carry would crush someone not built for it. And God knows that. That's why He let the others leave. That's why He closed the doors that looked perfect from the outside. That's why every time you tried to go back to the familiar, something inside you felt off. Because once you awaken, you can't go back to sleep. Once your spirit is activated, you can't pretend to be average. You're not average. You're chosen. You were selected for this path before your first breath. And though the journey is hard, it's also sacred. You don't just survive the wilderness. You're shaped by it. It becomes your training ground, the very place where you discover your inner warrior. You learn to move in silence, to hear God's voice in the wind, to walk through dark valleys with unwavering faith. Most people break when they're alone. But the chosen ones, we build when we're alone. We write, we pray, we create, we evolve. We don't collapse in isolation. We transform in it. Because when you have no one left to call, you call on the divine. And when the divine answers, what you gain can never be taken away. Confidence that isn't built on compliments. Peace that doesn't depend on surroundings. Power that doesn't need permission. And that kind of power, it's what makes you unstoppable. They'll wonder how you came out stronger. How you kept going when they all turned their backs. How you smiled while carrying weights they never even noticed. They won't understand it, but they'll feel it. Because something changes in your presence after you've walked through isolation and came out standing. You stop apologizing for your light. You stop lowering your frequency to fit in. You start commanding rooms, not with your words, but with your energy. You become a living testimony that pain has purpose, That isolation has a reason. That rejection was actually protection. People will ask you how you did it, and you'll smile, not out of pride, but out of deep knowing, because you'll remember the tears, the nights of praying for just one person to understand you, the days you felt invisible. And now, here you are, rising, not because they lifted you, but because God raised you. When He isolates you, it's because what He's building in you needs quiet construction. No audience, no distractions, just you, Him, and the process. And when that process is complete, He brings you back out. But this time, you're different. You walk different. You talk different. You see different. You no longer chase people. You attract purpose. You no longer seek approval. You walk in divine authority. You no longer fear being misunderstood. Because now, you understand yourself. You realize you never needed the crowd. You needed the crown.